ES Audio.
It's been another busy weekend in the rugby calendar. The Women's Six Nations kicked off and the Gallagher Premiership was back in full swing. So joining me to talk through all the action, it's Steve Cording. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Lawrence.
And of course, Nick Purawal, the rugby correspondent at the Evening Standard. Hello, Nick.
Hi, Lawrence.
The last time I saw you both was at my Rugby Works charity Six Nations sort of wrap-up breakfast, lunch and dinner event at Boysdales in Canary Wharf. Gentlemen, you looked somewhat over-refreshed. Nick, how was your first Boysdales experience?
Oh, it's very good, thanks. Yeah, but yeah, I think, like you said, the sort of breakfast, lunch, and dinner element probably.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then breakfast as well, wasn't it, for some? But yeah, we found a new talent for Nick, which was come on, don't be shy now, Nick. He has a fantastic singing voice. It has to be said. Backstreet Boys, wasn't it, Nick?
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, that's kind of you to say.
This is go-to karaoke now, anyway, for the next time we go out.
Listen, I thank you for your wonderful support. I didn't realise that the singing went on till the early hours. I, of course, was tucked up in bed because being the consummate professional that I am and being a little bit older, I had to recover. But listen, it was an incredibly successful event. I think we raised over £70,000 for Rugby Works across the country. So thank you indeed for your support.
Superbly organised, Lawrence. And I know you don't like to talk about this much, but you do a fantastic job there. And I think just hearing from some of the recipients of the programme just sort of brought it home, the great work that Rugby Works actually do.
Thank you very much. Our guest this week is former England player who earned 58 caps during her international career and scored 44 tries, winning a World Cup in the process. It's Cat March. And Cat, welcome to the podcast. How are you? Looking very fit and well.
Thank you very much. Yes, I have been to the gym this morning. So, yeah, I'm feeling good.
Well, we'd expect a young lady who runs a fitness business to be to have already been at work. So full marks to you. Listen, it was a sellout game for England-Scotland up at Kingston Park. Of course, the start of the TikTok Women's Six Nations. A record attendance for Wales as they faced Ireland at Cardiff Arms Park. I think 22 tries scored across all three games. It's been a great opening weekend. It really feels like a seminal moment in women's rugby. Would you concur?
Oh, definitely. I think that the sellout for the England game was fantastic, and actually it shows maybe they need even bigger venues. And there's already been 40,000 tickets sold at Twickenham for the final game in April for England versus France. That's only 2,000 shy of the ultimate record, which is currently held in New Zealand at the Eden Park for the World Cup final. So it just shows how great a place that the women's game is in general, and it's fantastic to see the support that's behind it.
I mean, having lost that World Cup to New Zealand, we've got to take something away. So I'm sure our listeners will fill the void.
Yeah, that's it. Do your part.
We will sell those remaining thousands of tickets. Now, listen, one of probably the biggest talking point, quite rightly, of the weekend has been Sarah Hunter's retirement from rugby. Yeah. The most capped England player across the men's and the women's game, 141 caps. That is quite some achievement. She has had a phenomenal career of 16 years. I guess she's probably seen every change, along with a number of her colleagues like yourself, across the game. You played with her during that time at the Red Roses. Just give us a little synopsis of your thoughts on the impact that she's had. And not every player gets to have that kind of swan song, but that was a hell of a way to go out, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, most players, you're either dropped or you're injured, so you don't really get to choose. You're out. But yeah, what an amazing opportunity for her to be able to do that at home. But yeah, the thing I'd say about Sarah Hunter is that she's been a professional long before the game was professional. She's always been that person that would turn up early, that would do the extras. She's just that type of character. She'll be out there signing autographs for the longest amount of time. The way she did that interview after the World Cup final when they lost, like, just you couldn't believe the class that she had through it. I'd have been bawling and a complete wreck in the corner, but she managed to hold it together and just class. I'd say she's always the professional.
Do you remember your last game?
Well, mine was the World Cup final that we won.
It was.
So yes, yeah. So it was incredible, but unfortunately, I'd been sort of plagued with concussions in the build up to it. So in the back of my mind, I knew it was my last game. So it was one of those bittersweet moments, really, because we won it, and it was amazing and a huge relief because having lost it 4 years before. So it was amazing, but also singing the anthem, I knew it was probably my last time. So there was a real emotion to it, but yeah, not a bad game to bow out.
Well, if I was going to say, if that's the way to bow out, winning a World Cup final, I mean, I probably should have cut my losses and bowed out. I lost my last game for England, which was a World Cup final against South Africa, but we'll blame the little Irish referee.
Yeah, always blame the refs.
Not Mark Cueto.
Yeah, you talk about Sarah holding it together through interviews. Have you seen that interview yet that she did on BBC with I don't know who that was, crawling on his hands and knees behind her during that final bit?
That was actually Hannah Bottoman. That's one of the players.
Oh, was it? Oh,
so
right.
So she's injured at the minute.
Yeah.
She's a real character. She's amazing. She actually retweeted it or put it on a story or something and was like, I shouldn't be let out of the house. Because I think in her mind, she's like, oh, I'll get out of the way, but just walk past or run past anything, but don't crawl.
It's not really going to help her injury either, is it? Crawling on your hands and knees.
Yeah, with her knee. Yeah, it's probably the worst thing she could do. But bless her.
So you're obviously in comms. I mean, Scotland have now turned professional and obviously put up a little bit more resistance to England, but England still won at a relative canter. I mean, can you see anybody coming close to stopping England? I mean, Italy, France was a little bit closer yesterday. I guess the French is really the one team that stands out as the ones who can really challenge England.
Oh, it's 100%. It's France. Normally, England-France is a really tight game. And actually, weirdly, Italy is their bogey team. So whenever they play Italy in Italy, it is close games. And the weather was atrocious. So I wasn't surprised by the closeness of that game. But France will dominate the other games that they play. So that will be a really good game at Twickenham. I mean, because they hate the English. They really come firing at us. They always play better against us.
Feelings mutual. The feelings mutual, by the way.
Yes. So that will be an amazing game.
Yeah, Kat, I interviewed Sarah Hunter last week, and I was asking her, when she was young, who were her sort of role models, and she was saying how actually it was players from the men's game, but across the course of her career and the course of players like yourself as well, that's completely changed, hasn't it? For a former Red Roses player and World Cup winner yourself, how proud are you, your generation, her generation, that have made that change? And I suppose it must have been a really good thing for her to be able to retire with youngsters in the crowd who can actually see what they can be in the future now, can't they?
And it's exactly that, because when we were younger and coming into the game, it was very much you'd look up to your male equivalents and you'd look at them and you'd watch their games and be like, wow, I want to play like that and emulate them. The games we were involved in weren't on TV necessarily at that time, so you didn't have those stars that you look up to, whereas now, absolutely, people do. Like, young players will be looking at the likes of Claudia McDonald, like scoring loads of tries, doing amazing, and young wingers will be looking, going, oh, I want to be like her when I grow up, or I want to play like that, and that's great as well. And there's a lovely photo from the England-Scotland game, and it's zoomed in, and all on the front row is young lads, is young boys that are watching. So it's not just, we talk about let's grow the game, let's get girls involved in the game, but actually it's beyond that. It's like, let's just get people inspired and children inspired to want to play rugby. So yeah, really valid point there.
And Kat, I feel like, with the success of the England women's football team and the general elevation, quite rightly, of women's sport per se, it feels like a bit of a moment in time. I mean, obviously, England got to that World Cup final. We're hosting the next World Cup. The game has grown enormously. We often have to remind ourselves that the women's game has only been professional in England for a very short period of time. And actually, it's not a level playing field, because some of their teams that they're playing against aren't professional, and it's very difficult to grow the sport when some of you are working full-time and some of you are working part-time, and it's just very difficult. Where do you think the priorities are for the continued development of the women's game? If you could pick one or two things that sort of still frustrate you a little bit, what would they be, and what would those priorities be?
Well, firstly, I'd sort of say that the fact that other nations are now taking it seriously and they are professionalising the game, like Wales, they've had some dreadful Six Nations the last few years. They've been really underperforming. They've been dire, to be honest. And then this year, they've come out first round. They have put Ireland away. They were like really impressive. Bonus point win before half time. And that's because a year and a half ago, they went professional. So like Scotland only just gone professional, and it takes time, doesn't it? Like you played in the days as well, Lawrence, where it wasn't. And then you had that transition where it is.
So you mean there are some good rugby players in Wales? That's what it basically
There are, yes. There are some very, very good players in Wales. But a lot of the Welsh players are actually playing in the English Premiership, which I think has, like, the Prem 15s has just accelerated with the amount of support that it's receiving at the minute. Players are getting proper funding. And the biggest thing I think as well is it's not just about the time together, it's about the ability to recover. Because when you have got doctors, I think there's like 3 or 4 doctors in the Premiership which are going on shift overnight and then going and playing rugby. It's very difficult to be able to do. So I think that's a big thing. Showing it is obviously fantastic. Selling tickets, fantastic. And one big thing as well, and I know it's a small thing, it sounds like it, but going to, so I do commentary most weekends. One weekend I had off and I was like, actually, I'm going to go watch a game, obviously. So I went down to the Quins women who were playing Gloucester, top of the league. And there was food on, there was drinks on, there was all of that. And there was atmosphere. Whereas previously you can't even get a cup of coffee, or, it's one man and his dog watching. So it's just haven't got the atmosphere. Whereas that building, it's now actually a product that people go, oh, should we go to the game? It's not, oh, should we drag ourselves down and do it? So I think that's a big difference as well. But I think continued support. And Ireland are the ones who are having the biggest problem. They've offered contract, players haven't accepted them, and you have to worry about how bad those contracts are. Because I was thinking about this. I think my first Sevens contract, we worked it out, and I was on about £2 an hour. And I was like, yeah, cool, great, I'm in.
Yeah, they've got no excuse now, Ireland. They've got enough money in the coffers from winning that Grand Slam. The IRU can now maybe divvy up some of that well-earned money and give it to the ladies' game.
Definitely, I think so. So yeah, continued support, and just showcasing it and getting behind it.
Brilliant.
Kat, you'd mentioned there about working as commentator. Obviously, you're still coaching, and your punditry role is something that you enjoy. But can you tell us a little bit about the successful fitness business that you've now launched, Elite 14? Now, I follow you on Twitter.
Yeah.
Avidly. I have to say, your physique is unbelievable.
Thank you.
Steve, you're not following it that well, because yours hasn't changed very much.
Not following the advice, but yeah.
Lawrence will never go near another gym, I think, in his life. He just likes to sit on his bike. I think he's done enough weights for a lifetime. You're going there tomorrow, so he tells us. Yeah. But this clearly is something that you're very passionate about. But also, I think the one thing that struck me in particular is the amount of negative comments as well that you still get, particularly around, you're obviously a keen advocate of body positivity.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it that first made you decide to do this once you'd finished?
Yeah, so I'd always been interested in like personal training and helping people out and everything. And then when COVID hit, actually, obviously you had to change the way that you worked. So I went very much remote with what we do. And now actually we've got clients from all over the world. We've got people in New Zealand, we've got people literally across the globe that we can now help. And actually, because we do the training, the nutrition and the lifestyle, it's more around the mindset. It's not about a quick fix. It's about actually, you're going to do this for long term. This is helping you forever. These are people with, high blood pressures or issues that they're facing health wise that actually they really do need to address. So it's not going long term. So having that is really, really rewarding. But yeah, I do get the trolling from it, which is just really strange. There are still people out there who just seem to find the concept of a woman having biceps just far too much for their little brains to deal with, and get a lot of negative sort of being called manly and all this. And it's just, I did find it annoying at first, and it was hurtful the first few times you see it. But now I actually just go like, okay, you think I look buff, cool. I'm shredded, great. You just take it as a compliment rather than it's their issue. They're frustrated, they don't have that physique. And, a lot of the time people will say stupid stuff. They'll be like, oh, clearly roids and stuff. And you're like, it is 20 years of training, of nutrition, of hard work, and just the comments that are just so flippant. You go and you do it. You go train 4 or 5 times a week. You go and do this and see where you get to. And I guarantee you don't do it consistently. And that's why you're not getting those results. So, yeah.
I mean, not wanting to put a negative spin on it, because you get as many more positive comments
absolutely.
and feedback from people that you've helped and what you've done. And as Lawrence always says on here, the haters will always hate, won't they, on social media? There's nothing you can do about that. But does it give you a massive buzz when people do say to you, you've helped transform me, you've changed my life?
Yeah, and you'll still get it like a year later or something like that. We work with people. We helped a lady who'd had an eating disorder for 40 years of her life, and she said she finally felt free. And when someone's like, I get goosebumps saying that, because it's just, you genuinely really help people. I've always liked helping people, and it's not about the I want to get a 6-pack or anything like that. It's not those people generally. It's going to be people that are like, I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to pick my grandkids up. I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to do this in the future. And so actually, by prioritizing themselves and really helping them with even just simple lifestyle things, they can then change forever. The joy that you bring to people's life. Someone said as well that we'd given her the key that she just never had, and now it opens all the doors for her. And like things like that are just really nice and really rewarding with what we do.
Well, Nick, we better get in there quick. Come on, when are we getting our first leader session?
Yeah, just more info on Twitter. There you go. Like, follow me on Twitter. And...
You help drinking disorders. Or... listen, Kat, well done. Keep doing what you're doing. I think it's brilliant. I mean, honestly, ignore the haters, ignore the toxic tweets, because as you say, the positivity out there for you and your business and everything you've done to help people's lives is fantastic. Now, before we let you go, we're going to put you through our quickfire question.
Tackled.
Your full name, please, Kat.
Catherine Elizabeth Merchant.
Very English, isn't it? That's
Very, so English.
Beautiful name. Beautiful name.
Yeah.
What is your, now listen, maybe not the queen of fitness, I can't really ask you this. What is your favourite takeaway?
Oh, Thai. Yeah, definitely.
See, even that's healthy.
Come on, if you know come on, the old days, what was it? What was your the real favourite when you'd had a few with the girls? Come on.
If you've had a few, then it's like chips, like fish and chips, something like that. It's something greasy and stodgy.
Something like Wimpy that Steve will know because he's that old. Right. What was the last movie you watched?
Genuinely don't know. Some probably rubbish rom-com. I'm a bit rubbish for movies.
So it wasn't one Pumping Iron by Arnie then?
No, I'm not really into those types of films. But yeah, no.
That horrendous. That film was awful.
Steve, she's been tackled by me, not you.
Yeah.
So, can you put yourself on mute and pipe down?
You're both bigger than me, so yeah.
What is your nickname?
Nemo. I had at the time. Yeah.
Expand. I mean, is that the orange?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I injured my elbow horrifically, and then I couldn't straighten it properly for quite some time, and so they said it was my little Nemo arm. So, yeah, called Nemo for a couple of years. That in
itself needs investigation.
And ironically, sorry, Lol, I'm going to butt in again. You are actually dressed in Nemo colours today. You're in orange.
Yeah, I'm just always representing.
Kat? What is the best advice that you've been given?
To keep it quick fire, I'd say just back yourself.
And who would you say is the most famous person in your phone book?
Oh, it's got to be Lawrence Delalio. Yeah.
I said not infamous, famous.
Yeah.
Who's the funniest person that you know either in the England dressing room or in rugby, or the person that you just makes you laugh all the time?
Marley Packer in the rugby team. She's just a ball of energy. Like, you laugh then. Like, she
doesn't laugh when she's running at people.
No, that's true. But off the pitch.
That is funny. No laughing matter. Are you a dog or a cat lady?
Dog. Got 3 dogs. So yeah, definitely dogs.
What are they?
A mini sausage dog, a cockapoo, and a puppy golden retriever.
Wow, that's the full book, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely.
If you have to get up and sing a song, what is your karaoke song?
I would have to be extremely drunk to do that. I'm very shy with singing, but I'd probably, as soon as I'm drunk, I get all like excited and confident, and then I'd probably go for Adele or something.
That's going from there.
All out.
There, isn't it?
And it is.
I'm really shy, but I'm going to sing Adele.
I have no in between. I'm like, no, couldn't possibly. That one sip, and then I'm right. I am like going for it.
Now, a couple of the serious ones to finish. Who is, in your opinion, the best rugby player of all time? Who was the person that made you sit up and take notice, or maybe just someone who's still playing now that you think, wow?
So in men's game, I would say Johnny Wilkinson. He was around the age bracket when I was younger, watching and like really just rated him and thought he was fantastic. In the women's game, not playing now, but Maggie Alfonsi was outstanding. Like, and I hate saying that because she's quite arrogant, but give her an even bigger head. But she was incredible. Just that all-round player, just hard worker, but just the way that she hit, she punched way above her weight as well. And yeah, she was a fantastic player.
Your most memorable rugby moment would be, or your first or last game? I don't know which one.
Yeah. So well, actually, my first game in my first cap, I got a try with my first touch of the ball, which is actually my other nickname. I got a nickname One Touch because the first time I touched the ball did that, and it happened a couple of times after that. Not the
just
whole
natural
time,
natural talent.
Yeah.
So
that was a pretty cool memory, and but then no, it would be the World Cup final, definitely. Yeah.
Well, listen, that is a wonderful way to finish being tackled and a wonderful way to finish your career. So, Kat, it's been great to chat to you, especially about your fitness business, Elite 14. We're all looking forward to seeing how the Red Roses progress in the women's TikTok Six Nations. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So let's have a chat about the Premiership then. Friday night, Newcastle kicked us off with a win over Gloucester, which was all the more remarkable for them, having gone down to 14 men following the red card for prop Richard Palfaram. So more good news for interim head coach Mark Laycock there. Then we moved on to Saturday, and Leicester continued their winning run against Bristol, now 5 on the bounce. And I think ominously for the rest of the Premiership, Henry Pollard is finally starting to to show the sort of form that Leicester signed him for, scoring a try, 19 points in total, and saying he's finally enjoying his rugby. And Super Saturday then moved on to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Saracens against Harlequins. Nick, you were at the game. Quins got off to a textbook start with an early try from Alex Dombrandt, but Saracens bagged the win to confirm a home semi-final. How impressed were you by them?
Very. And I think the most impressive thing about Saracens really is their inevitability. It's sort of, even when Quins took the lead, you felt like they would always do what they do, just take control. And, one way or another, they find a way. And with 3 games to go, 11 points clear, home semi-final in the bag, it's very impressive. And I think respect to Mark McCall when he was pointing out that through the 2 test windows when their international players have been away, that's when they've produced their best results. And, they've used 48 players in 17 league matches, which is, very impressive. And that's always good for the future of the game and bringing new people into the sport.
No, I didn't actually see that game live because I was at the St Patrick's Day party down at London Irish, who played Northampton. Lol, you were working there, and I was on the Guinness there with a group of dads and lads from school. 3 of them actually had never been to a rugby match before. Turned into a big party as well, particularly for London Irish. 13,500 there. They won 37-22 over Saints and leapfrogged over them into 4th spot. I still can't quite believe that Irish were bottom of the table in December, but how impressed were you by them? And I think particularly this academy production line that they've got there is just fantastic and just keeps churning out all these players, doesn't it, who are now coming to fruition.
Yes, I was there in my commentary capacity. I mean, first of all, congratulations to everyone at London Irish for putting on a really good occasion, a really good game. We don't get to celebrate enough about these types of weekends, trying to grow audiences, bring new fans in. And they came out the blocks. They looked hungry. They looked enthusiastic. They looked like a side that hadn't lost the Premiership Cup final the week before. They looked like a side that really were excited about the challenge of potentially making the top 4. We know how dangerous they can be in attack. Paddy Jackson has always been, someone who can help them accumulate points and take them around areas of the field. But in Tom Pearson, I think they had the outstanding player on the field. We celebrate a lot of England back row forwards, but this young man does appear to have quite a lot of talent in terms of his overall game. I hadn't seen him play quite so well as he did at the weekend. I mean, everything about his performance suggested to me, particularly as he was up against Lewis Ludlam, the captain of Saints, who actually didn't play badly himself, by the way. Tom Pearson sort of showed, more importantly, Steve Borthwick, that he could be a star of the future. So, yeah, well done to the Irish. I think that the way results have gone, and we'll talk about that in a minute, they got every chance of really cementing themselves in that top 4.
Now, have you ever done what Henry Arundel did, to dive before the line and not score? I mean, I won't actually say what head coach Les Kiss called him afterwards, because that turned the air slightly blue on their BT. But have you ever done anything like that, Lol?
No, I mean, I've scored a try 5 yards too early. And put the ball down on the 5-metre line. But that was in a testimonial match where the lights were pretty poor at Stradey Park. So I think on the basis of my alcohol consumption the night before and the fact that there was no lighting, I was given the benefit of the doubt, and the referee actually didn't tell anyone and just awarded the try anyway. No, look, he did somewhat embarrassing. Look, it's been a roller coaster week for the young man. Henry Arundel made his Test debut, found himself in a back 3 that was minus Freddie Stewart. So I guess we can forgive him the emotional fatigue of making his England debut. And thankfully for him, it obviously didn't cost London Irish.
Before that, though, it's not the worst one for London Irish, so he can console himself with that, can't he? Because remember Leguizamon? With the big celebration, he tried to do the star celebration and he dropped the ball because he had it in one hand.
Yeah,
tried to do
it's known as the Freddie Burns blooper, isn't it? Really, the Freddie Burns Memorial Trophy. But no, listen, it was a very entertaining match, and that was probably just one of the highlights, really.
Yeah, so one player who did get the try scoring right was Cam Redpath with his brilliant swan dive there to score for Bath in the final game of the weekend. You were down there for BT Sport. Bath 5 tries, 36-19 victory over Exeter. Probably not one that we expected, was it?
No, not at all. Bath have been rooted to the Premiership for a while now, haven't they? And Johan van Graam, mixed reception. He's taken a lot of criticism, but whatever he said before this game, it certainly worked. I think for him to have a fit complement of players, or certainly a few more off the injury bench, particularly up front, because I know that the backs grab all the headlines inevitably, but we all know, the foundations of rugby are up front and set piece and just being hard and resilient and tough to beat. And Bath have been anything but that. They've had loads of injury problems in their back row, in their front row. And I looked at their team before the game. And actually, my feelings going down there were this is going to be a fairly simple win for Exeter Chiefs. But actually, when I started to look at the team, I thought, hold on a minute, there's a chance here that Bath have got a really strong side out. And by that, I meant Ben Urbano, loose head prop, Will Stewart, up until recently, England's first choice tight head prop, and Tom Dunn, who's also an international. So just having those three in the front row made such a big difference to Bath. And I thought, along with, Redpath, their kicking game was outstanding. I thought defensively, Pereira, I think their South African coach has really starting to make a big impact. And Ben Spencer, this is a player that 4 years ago was flown out on the week of the World Cup final to play in the final by Eddie Jones. He hasn't suddenly become a bad player overnight. He's just been playing in a really poor side. So I thought he looked like a genuine option. Something a bit different at 9. And look, whether Van Graan meant to sign him or not, the Finn Russell story, if they can get a pack of forwards that can win ball and play, then there is absolutely no doubt that Bath will be a different prospect next season. And you know what? The people that deserve it most are those supporters, because they might all be sort of 85, but they are fantastically loyal supporters. And I think that they were sold out in a game that they probably thought they were turning up more in hope than expectation. And they were good value. And finally to finish, Exeter, well, they seem to have some travel sickness at the moment. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Exeter Chiefs. They've only won 2 out of all of their away games, which is very unusual. They seem to get stuck on scoring 3 tries as well. They've done that 7 or 8 times this season. And look, Rob Baxter is a great man of rugby, as is Ali Heifer, and they'll fix it at some point. Whether it's fixable to make the top 4 is difficult to say. But, all that contract talk they had earlier on in the season, there's so much uncertainty in their dressing room. And no matter how good a coach you are, that causes problems. And the minute that uncertainty stopped, then they started to pick up results and things started to go their way. So I think this has been an unprecedented year of change at Exeter Chiefs. Players leaving the club. They still haven't announced where Jack Knowles going, although we all know it's La Rochelle. So, let's see what happens. But definitely Les Kiss would be, after he's been fined for his outburst on live television, he'll be spending that money on a nice bottle of red wine and sending it to Johan van Graan, because that was a big result.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, we've got a break for a couple of weeks now because we're back into last 16 of Champions Cup, Challenge Cup action. But let's finish with our Players of the Week.
Player of the Week with QBE Business Insurance. Be prepared.
Nick, who are you going to choose?
Billy Vunipola, actually. I think it was being left out of the England Six Nations squad was a big thing for him. It hit him quite hard. But Mark McCall was praising him for the way in which he stayed calm about that, but also stepped forward to be a leader at Saracens during that period of time when he could have had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, but he didn't do that, actually. He got in there and almost in some ways acted as an extra coach, for the young guys coming through, helping them. And I suppose in one way that took his mind off the England situation, but in another it's helped him get right back to top form.
Lawrence, who are you going to go for?
If you'll excuse me, I'm going to have 2 mentions. One for Sarah Hunter, just to, nod to what she's achieved in her career. And, we couldn't speak of any player of the weekend without bringing her name into it. As what a way to go. I mean, I got to write my own script because my last game was the Premiership final against Leicester Tigers, and we luckily won. But I think her scriptwriter is even better. I mean, to play for England in your last game like that, to win emphatically. So well done to her. And of all the performers, of which there were many, my award has to go to a back row forward. His name is Tom and his second name is Pearson. I thought he was magnificent. I think England currently lack really big, strong ball carriers that can do the sort of damage that the French and the South Africans are doing on quite a regular basis. And I think he could well be the answer to that. There's a lot to like about that young man. And let's hope he's got the common sense to stay at London Irish and not be lured elsewhere, because I don't think he needs to. I think London Irish could be a force to be reckoned with. And I think he could be a player that they could build the squad around.
Well, I'm going to go for somebody who's a colleague of his from the same game, Ben Loader. His stats were unbelievable. 221 metres, 16 carries and a try. 3 clean breaks, bright orange boots, and 4 new 12-year-old fans, including Cording Jr., who thought he was absolutely amazing. Now, I know you hate to hear this, Lawrence, but if you are going to attract new fans to the game, it's those stars and those sort of performances, I think, that will do it, because obviously all the work goes on in the forwards, but the glory boys who take it, they're the ones who are going to appeal.
Well, listen, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And presumably your son has asked for a pair of those orange boots, so it's cost you about 150 quid. That's all for this episode of the Evening Standard Rugby Podcast. My thanks to the wonderful Cap Merchant, to Steve, of course, and to Nick, and a special thanks to you all for listening. We'll be back next week with more rugby chat, so we'll see you then.